Hi guys, welcome to my channel. Happy Monday. I hope all of you had a fantastic weekend. I'm Kayla. For those of you that don't know me, I live in Atlanta, Georgia, originally from New York, but I've been here a few years. I'm 45 years old and I'm a single mom to a almost 10-year-old. I'm so excited to do another episode. I did say that I was going to do this every week, at least every Friday, but unfortunately, Friday I couldn't. I just had a lot going on. But thanks for joining in. This channel is about empowering women. It's about empowering single moms, especially. It's about motivation. It's about positivity and a lot more. So in today's episode, I want to talk about co-parenting and the skills that are required really for you to be a successful co-parent. Now, I know that everybody's situation is different. There are some situations where you're co-parenting because it's court ordered. There's other situations where you and the father or mother of your children or child have come to an agreement. There's tons of different scenarios as to how we can co-parent, especially if it's someone who at some point you had a volatile relationship with or it didn't end well. So I want to give you a little bit about my story, and then I will, of course, share my experience and my tips. For those of you that need to hear this today more than ever, know that every situation is different. Don't blame yourself for everything. Take accountability where you can. But when I tell you co-parenting is one of the most difficult relationships you'll face in your life, it truly is. One, you both have something in common, which is your children or your child. And then two, right, you have emotions perhaps, anger, whole bunch of different things that are happening. And it takes a long time. It doesn't happen overnight to get to where you need to be an effective co-parent. So for me, I'll fill you in a little bit about my experience. When we ended our relationship, it ended because he didn't want the responsibility in reality. It ended because there was a lot of deception and a lot of lies from his end. And it ended because you can't build and you can't continue a healthy relationship based on lies. It just doesn't work that way. I think it also ended because we didn't have God on our side, as far as we weren't praying together, we weren't going to church together, we weren't really seeking God in our relationship. And I think I also met him at a really bad time. For me, guys, timing is everything. And, I'll be very honest with you. I was in my mid-30s and I knew I wanted a child. And I think, honestly, if it wouldn't have been him, it would have been anyone. This is really sad, but I was desperate. I was willing to fix whatever needed to be fixed. I was willing to be quiet whenever I needed to be quiet. I was willing to take it all in, whether it was good or bad. I was willing to put him first. I was willing to put myself last. I was willing. I was willing to do whatever he wanted because I truly wanted us to work. I wanted the family. I wanted, the white picket fence and all of that. However, sometimes as women, we ignore signs because we want something so bad. And for those of you that are going through that today, whether you want to be a mom or time is ticking, or you're unsure, pray about it and ask God to guide you. God will give you the answers, and sometimes we ignore those answers. Though my daughter is one of the best gifts I've ever received. I really wanted a child, especially a girl. There's also a lot of learnings that I got from that relationship, and also a lot of self-reflection, healing to be a good mom to her. So for me, I would always say, don't ignore those signs. Listen to your gut. But also the scariest part is that once you have a child with someone, you truly are going to have that person in your life for the rest of your lives. Even after the child becomes an adult, that person will be there for weddings, graduations, and special occasions. But it's up to you to always put your child first and always figure out a way to be the bigger person. Sometimes you just have to sacrifice. Sometimes you just have to do that. For me, the first year was the most difficult year. It was, to say the least, probably a testing year of my emotions, of my self-control, of everything. We ended the relationship pretty early on after my daughter was born, which, to be honest with you, at first I was sad about it, but now looking back, it was the best thing that happened, because I feel like it's tougher once children get older, once they know and understand, and then to break up the marriage and relationship, and then that child gets impacted in such a way when they were used to having both of you at home. I think it's more difficult. The fact that she was so young early on, that's all she kind of knows. But of course, she does have also role models of people that are married in her life, because I want her to see that. I want her to know that that's what it's supposed to be, right? But I'm glad it did happen early on, because she didn't understand, and it gave me some time to really heal, but also understand, okay, I need to really be kind to this person who hurt me so much. When I talk about hurt, it was not just hurt, but all the emotional abuse that went along with it. It was the tearing down. It was, the you're not going to be nobody. It was kind of jealousy, I think, also, because he was at a point where he wasn't where he wanted to be in his career. It was, no support as far as emotional support. It was victim mentality, all about him. And it was about placing blame, accusing me of things that were not there. A lot of just emotional back and forth, a lot of turmoil. So the first year was horrible, needless to say. But I always put my child first, and I always made it work. I've never ever spoken negatively about him. I've never interjected where he wanted to see his daughter. My doors are always open, always, and he knows that. Even when I couldn't stand his guts, my door was always open to him. And I always wanted her to have that relationship with her dad, and I refused to put my emotions in the middle of that, because it's not about that. At the end of the day, when you're co-parenting, guys, keep in mind that it's about the children. It's not about you. It's not about what he did to you, what she did to you, your emotions, how you're feeling. It's about the child. You got to fake it sometimes, but at the end of the day, it is about your child. And your child will look to see how you behave. They'll look to see, how you are with the parent. For sure, fighting in front of your children is never acceptable. I never did that. Everything that we argued about was via text, to be quite honest with you, or via phone. But she was never there to listen, and she never saw me disrespect her father, not once. I don't speak ill will about him. If anything, I make him look good. I say he's a hard worker. He's the best. I really build him up. Sometimes there were situations where I had to kind of, he perhaps rarely happened, but, if he didn't show up for something, I'd have to make something up, right? I'd have to kind of fill that void in that space. So I always wanted him to look good, and I still do. To this day, I don't bash him. I invite him to everything. I'm cordial towards him. It's kind of weird what I'm about to say, but I almost look at him, he is like a family member. I look at him as like a long distance cousin or something. He is he's in my life, and I appreciate what he does, for my daughter. As I said before in my prior video, work has always been a priority for him. But he does have a demanding job as well, and I get that. But at the end of the day, I still will never ever speak negatively about him. So that's number one. I would say never ever speak negative about your child's parent ever. Pep them up, make them look good, and don't forget that that child is part of that person as well. So that's number one. Number two, I would say also, as they get older, I notice the communication doesn't have to be as much. So for example, now my daughter can text him, call him, whatever. But when they're younger, you do have to kind of talk, hey, the formula's here. You got to do this, you got to do that. Car seat will be here. So you do have to engage that way, but always keep it about the child. Don't talk about shoulda, woulda, coulda. Don't talk about what he did to you or what she did to you. Don't talk about any of that. Just focus on the child. The child will be the main priority. Now, sometimes, in my experience only, sometimes that man will deviate and think that just because you have a child that you're kind of open access as far as maybe whatever that is you can imagine. But you got to make it clear from the beginning, this is just a co-parenting relationship. There's no flirting. There's none of that. You didn't keep the family together. Therefore, that doesn't happen. And we are just co-parenting. That's it. We're co-parents, co-partners, as if we're running a company. I don't want to compare a child to that, but you know what I mean. That is the goal. The goal is to take care of the child, make sure that child is raised as a healthy adult with very limited issues. And always keep that in mind and keep that in perspective. You will be the person that has to create that sometimes. In other words, you don't answer texts that make no sense. You bring it back to your child. You make it known that it's about your child. For example, when he drops her off, now that she's older, she can come in. I don't really go outside. I don't have to because I just open up the garage and she comes in. I don't go outside to greet him. I don't need to. It's very cordial. Thank you. Good night. It's very cordial. There's no extras. There's no talking about extra things that don't involve my daughter. I let you know ahead of schedule. Hey, this is what she has going on. So for example, this Saturday she has a competition. This is her schedule. Let me know if you can make it. That is basically how you keep that co-parenting relationship respectful. We don't talk about our private lives. When the time comes that he or myself are ready to take that leap of faith and get married to someone, then at that moment, of course, we have to say, be respectful. Hey, she's going to meet my significant other or my fiance. But honestly, till that point happens, there's no need. We don't bring around anyone that we know is not going to be part of that child's future. Also, keeping in mind, when they're with the other parent, let them be with the other parent. Stop micromanaging, stop texting. I was doing that in the beginning because she was younger. And I was like, stop doing that. Just let them spend time together and let them, let her enjoy her dad. Let them create a memory, bonds, whatever, but stop interjecting. So I stopped doing that. His time is his time. And that's it. I never ask her questions about him. I just ask, how did it go? What did you eat? But I never ask questions about him. That's none of my business. I pray for him because you want that parent to be healthy mentally and physically and spiritually. So you always want to pray for for the co-parent. You want them to be good for your child. Remember, it's always about the child. You're always keeping that child in perspective. And another healthy parent is always the way to go. And then lastly, of course, you always want open communication. So I never do things without telling him. For example, not everything, but if I'm traveling outside of the state or the country, he knows I'm traveling and, this is what's happening. He makes it easy for me. He doesn't really question me. He trusts that I'm a good mom. So I think the trust has to be there. I trust him also when he's with her. So that helps. The fact that we trust one another, to know that we're not going to hurt our child or do anything crazy, which, by the way, I would never have a child with someone if I didn't trust them, that they would be a good father. So clear to say, I don't have to worry there. But lastly, I'm going to leave it here. If this is new for you, make sure your emotions are under control. Never lead with emotions. Never lead a conversation with emotions. And first and foremost, remember, children have to come first. You set the example. If the other parent can't, you do it. If the other parent is always starting something with you, or, reel them back if you can. Or sometimes have someone there. Like in the beginning, I would have like my mom there, or someone there that I trusted. And don't bash him to anyone, especially not your child, but don't bash him or her. Don't talk about them at all. Remember, you guys at one point had a good marriage, had a good relationship. So, things happen. Anyways, please subscribe to my channel. Comment, of course, if you have anything. If there's anything that you want me to discuss in the next episode, please do comment, subscribe. Have a great day. I'll leave it here. But thank you for tuning in. Talk to you soon. Bye, guys.